Hi, my name is Robert Chelle with Chelle Law, and I'm an attorney that assists physician assistants with employment contract and independent contractor agreement issues. Today I'm talking about physician assistant telehealth contract terms. So, what are some really specific things that a PA who's going to do telehealth should think about and to be concerned about as well? Well, since COVID, telehealth certainly is more and more popular as far as a PA goes. Um, Doing some of that can be a little bit difficult because you have to have, a supervising physician. There are some concerns with that as far as are they available. Some states require at least some kind of physical presence occasionally. Before you even start, you need to identify what are the supervisory requirements in my state, and then will they even allow the PA to provide telehealth? Next, multi-state telehealth. You need to be licensed if you're seeing patients in a different state. And then if you're doing multi-state telehealth, then you're going to need a different supervisor for each state that you're in, unless you can find someone who's licensed in all the states that you're going to practice in. I recently had somebody who sent me a supervisor, agreement and an employment agreement for a PA who's going to do telehealth. It was like 7 or 8 different states, and the supervisor was only licensed in one of the states. It just presents a myriad of problems for both the supervising physician and the PA. So be careful about that. Identify what the rules are in your state for supervision and make certain that telehealth is even allowed. All right, next. Non-competes, very tricky for a telehealth provider. It's still kind of shaken out in the courts. Even the rules in some states that do have, specific laws about non-competes for healthcare providers aren't very specific about telehealth concerns. I find telehealth companies have much broader non-competes than if you were just working in a, outpatient clinic. Like a standard non-compete for an outpatient clinic might say, you can't practice for 1 year and 5 to 10 miles from your primary practice location. Whereas if you're doing telehealth, it theoretically could be all over the state. So what you don't want to happen is that the telehealth company says you simply can't practice in the state or within 20 miles of every patient that you provided care to while employed with them. It needs to be narrowly tailored and allow you to continue practicing as a PA in that state, so you're not kind of out of luck if you want to stay in the state. And then also the definition of where it applies. Is it where you physically are when you're having your telehealth consults? Is it where the patient is? These are all things that really should be defined in a non-compete in a telehealth contract, and I find quite frequently they're simply not. Technology responsibilities. Most of these telehealth companies will have some kind of either unique or web-based EMR system. You need to make certain that you understand how it works and that you'll always have access to the records. There are, I think, some companies that have unique telehealth portals, and they generally or many times won't work. And so you have to think about, all right, what happens if I have a consult scheduled and the system is down? How am I going to take notes? You need to literally take handwritten notes and document the encounter so you don't get into a situation where there's some kind of issue with the patient care and you either don't have notes at all or they're just kind of chicken scratch on a notebook. You would have to transcribe them into the EMR at some point down the road. I mean, telehealth can be great for some people. I mean, it's a kind of a great part-time job. If they just want to pick up some cases, many companies will have a system where it's just there's a queue and any of the providers can just log on at any time. and just, see the patients in the queue. And then when they're, ready to stop, they can do that. Other companies, you have to be available during a certain window and provide care in that way. But it's a good way to earn extra money if you can do it from, your own home. And it's not going to interfere if you have, another full-time job. Lastly, if you are going to do that, meaning you're going to do telehealth on the side and you have a full-time job, you need to make certain in your full-time job contract that it doesn't prohibit you from working in telehealth. Most, employment contracts will have language that says the PA cannot provide care for any other company without written approval from the employer. And kind of depending upon where you are, what kind of practice setting you're in, they may have a problem with you providing telehealth. So take that into account as well. All right, those are just some considerations if a PA is about to sign a telehealth contract. If you have any questions about your employment contract or independent contractor agreement, feel free to contact my law firm at the information listed below in the description. And appreciate you watching the video. All right, thanks. Take care.